Hello and welcome back to my channel. I know you're probably all expecting a midweek mystery video and I'm sorry to say that I don't have one for you this week. I'm currently on holiday, obviously not right now, but as you're watching this, me, Georgia, I am on holiday, I'm in Florida, and honestly I just didn't have time to film a proper midweek mystery before I went away, and obviously I don't want to rush these kinds of things. So I just figured I'd do a true crime Q&A, which hopefully you guys will enjoy just as much. I literally just asked on Instagram. I feel like I do most of my interaction with you guys via Instagram, but via Instagram stories. So make sure you go follow me over there if you want to get involved with this kind of thing in future. But I'm just gonna dive straight into the questions because I have a whole load. I have loads of questions to get through. So hopefully this video will actually still be quite long for you guys. I know you like a longer video. So the very first one is, why are we so fascinated with true crime? This is a very interesting question. There's loads of really interesting articles actually online about the fascination with true crime, why people feel so drawn to it. Personally, I think I like it because the more I can learn about this kind of stuff, the safer I can make sure that I am. Like, I know the signs, know how to look out for things, and I personally think it just is my way of controlling my anxiety about the topic, whereas a lot of other people just wouldn't read about it because it would help their anxiety. I feel like I've got to know everything, which in general for me is just a very anxiety thing in general. Like, if I'm worried about something, I need to learn everything about it. So that's personally why I think, psychologically, I'm so drawn to true crime. I'm also just quite a dark and morbid person in general, and I think people do have this not a darkness in them, but people do have this fascination with things that they don't understand. I think a lot of the time it's about trying to understand something, trying to understand why these things happen, trying to understand other people's mindsets. I think it is just an understanding thing. Also, I think that people like actual true crime videos and podcasts and stuff because it's less sensationalized than the media. I mean, there are YouTubers who sensationalize everything, don't get me wrong. But I feel like the reason people are so drawn to YouTube videos about it, people like me who just sit telling the story, there's no sensationalism, there's no oh my god, and then this happened and then that happened. It's just telling the story how it is, looking at it from all viewpoints, trying to see the full story, and I think that's quite important. I don't like to read the newspaper. I will not learn about this kind of stuff in a newspaper because there's always some sort of bias there. They're always coming at it from an angle, whereas podcasts and videos like this, there's no angle, it's just the story. But tell you what, I want all of you guys to comment down below and tell me why you think you're so interested in true crime. Why do you think it's a thing? What's the case that first got me interested in true crime? I don't know if I'd be able to pinpoint it on one particular case, but the earliest true deep fascination that I had, the thing that I remember reading about and just going into a deep dive on the internet and trying to learn about. Sorry, there's a car that's revving outside. Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer just fascinated me straight out. I think I probably stumbled across the Wikipedia page and started reading it, and from that moment I was just I had to know everything about the story. And obviously Jeffrey Dahmer was the first serial killer I covered in my serial killer spotlight series. I was just so deeply fascinated by Jeffrey Dahmer, and even still now, I watch his interviews, I try to understand where he was coming from. There's just something about Jeffrey Dahmer that I think is so different from every other serial killer. I'm not talking about different in a good way, I just think his psychology was so different. So that's the earliest big case I remember really reading about, but I've always been interested in true crime as a genre anyway. I always used to read books about it when I was younger, and yeah, but that's the first main one. I'm sure there was others, but that's the first one that I can remember. What do I find most challenging about filming true crime vids? The pressure to get everything right. I am only human. There's got to be some kind of room for error. Everyone makes mistakes, and I just feel there's such a big pressure with the stories I tell to get everything 100% right, to do it justice. Do the person justice and do the story justice, do the families justice, but also do you guys justice as well. I don't want you to come away from a video feeling disappointed. So there is a lot of pressure to get things right, but also stand by my morals and what I stand for as well. Which is why I always say that if you guys ever spot a mistake on my videos, just comment down below and politely tell me. I'd never be mad at somebody correcting any of my information if it's wrong. Go for it. That is definitely the hardest thing. Also, horrible people, which isn't a true crime thing, it's just internet in general. People can be really really nasty, and that's just challenging in general. I'm a very sensitive person. I cry all the time over literally anything, and I don't like the thought of these random people sat at home like typing out horrible comments to me when I haven't really done anything wrong. Like, you guys don't really know me. I'm like, I know we spend this time together on the internet, but nobody knows me apart from my friends and my family. So just horrible comments in general, but with true crime videos it is just the pressure to get everything right. If I had to spend a night with a serial killer knowing I would be safe, who would it be? I'm not sure in what way you meant this. I don't know if you meant like an intimate night. I'm not going to answer it in that way because I wouldn't anyone. But if you meant I had to spend a night as in like get to know them and like talk to them and like try and figure out their mind, I suppose, it would be Jeffrey Dahmer. Like I've already mentioned, I just want to know. I just want to get it. I want to understand it. What's the one case I could never cover and why? And I actually have one case which I will never ever talk about, and that's because it disturbed me so deeply, and that is the Wineville chicken coop murders. I mentioned this on Instagram, and actually loads of you like commented back on Instagram and you were like, yep, I feel exactly the same. That case like traumatized me. I actually watched The Changeling with Angelina Jolie. I love Angelina Jolie. I watch anything she does. And The Changeling is a film about the Wineville chicken coop murders, kind of. And I was so deeply disturbed by that film. I think I watched it probably when I was about 14, 15 years old. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Even now, just thinking about it makes me really, really uncomfortable. And I'm sure like if I probably looked into it properly, I could maybe ease some of that discomfort, but I can't bring myself to. It was horrendous. Which case baffles me the most? I say this all the time, like every time somebody asks me this question, I always have the same answer, and that is Cindy James. It's the one that I want solved the most, it's the one that baffles me the most. I covered it probably like a year and a half ago on my channel. I'll link it up here, I don't know what side it is, and down below as well if you want to go watch that. Any videos I mention I'll link down below just in case. Cindy James, in a nutshell, if you haven't seen it, she basically a report that she was being stalked to the police. Like I think it was over 100 times in like the space of a couple of years if I remember correctly. And she thought she was being stalked by someone, and like she'd randomly be found like in ditches, she'd be hog-tied, or she'd like say she'd been poisoned, I think. Sorry, I'm a bit iffy on the details. I can't exactly remember all like the little itty bitty details here. But anyway, the police like obviously tried to find this stalker, and they never found any evidence whatsoever that she was being stalked. Ever, nothing. And then one day she's found hog-tied in, I think it was a garden of an abandoned house, and she was dead, and it was classed, I think, as suicide. But how did she get there? Did she do it herself? A lot of people think she had like some sort of mental disorder and she like did everything to herself, maybe sort of like a dissociative identity disorder, something like that. I have no idea. That case just baffles me. It hurts my mind to think about, and I want it solved so badly, but I know it probably never will be. Do I think I could outsmart a murderer? I think just like I am aware enough to not get myself into that situation, like with like a random guy on the street. But if it's somebody like Ted Bundy, like you said, or somebody who like went out of their way to murder, like serial killer style, I don't think I could probably outsmart them, because they usually blend in very well. They're usually very like charismatic. I say usually, not all the time obviously. And I don't know if I would be able to outsmart them. Random guy on the street, probably. This proper like seasoned serial killer, probably not. Would I consider doing a vid on the Colombian school shootings? No, I will not do a video on that. I don't think I'll ever do any video on any sort of school shooting. I just think there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of things around them that just don't really sit right with me. I feel like they're very, very controversial, and I don't want to like put out a video that would inspire somebody to go on and do that kind of thing. So I know there are people online who will Google stuff like this and they'd watch a video about the Colombian school shooters and think, hey, that's cool, I want to do that too. And I do not ever want to contribute to something like that, ever. And also, school shootings are a really like emotive subject for me in general. Being from England, I've never seen a gun, touched a gun, never ever shot a gun. Like, I wouldn't even know where to begin. I've never ever been near a gun in my life, and I just will never ever understand America's mindset around guns. I don't get it. Just get rid of them all. Worked in England. I've never known of anyone who's been shot, ever. Not in my life. And I can only imagine the kind of hate I'd get on a video where I spoke about shooting and expressed those views, because I probably would do. I'm probably going to get hate on this video, but it's just being somebody from the UK, I do not get it, I don't understand it. Get rid of guns, it works. I'm sure there won't be many of you, but there will be a couple, I'm sure, who want to argue with me on that down below. Go for it, try your best, you will not change my mind. Guns are stupid. Do I block hateful comments on my videos? Hell yeah, I block any horrible comment. Like I say time and time again, I always welcome constructive criticism, like anything that's correcting my mistakes. Go for it, as long as you're polite and nice about it. I don't care, like that's life, I'm open to criticism. But anything that's hateful and nasty towards me or any of my friends or family or somebody that I'm talking about in a video, I don't do it. I'm trying to get better at like not replying, because I always just get really angry and reply, and then I usually delete the reply like 2 seconds later, but then it's too late because they've already got a notification. So I'm trying to get better at just like not replying. But my usual thing is, if I get one horrible comment, I'll just delete it. If they leave a second one, I will then block that person. It's not worth it. I mean, like, I know free speech and all that, so you guys can feel free to say whatever you want on whatever channel you want, go for it. But if you want to post it on my channel, I have the right to delete it as much as you have the right to write it. So yeah, people get so butthurt over like creators deleting comments, but if I don't want it on my channel, I'm just gonna delete it. What do I think is the most clever way the police have solved a crime? I have 2 that come to mind, 2 solved cases that I've covered which are really interesting. The first one is Yara Gambrosio, who was an Italian girl who was murdered and left for dead in a field. And they basically found her killer through DNA sort of tracing. So they found DNA and like basically did like familial DNA tracing until they found like the guy it matched to. It was really interesting. Again, that'll be linked down below. And so will the second one, which is Daniel Morecambe. The police set up this whole undercover sting operation because they were like pretty convinced they knew exactly who it was. They just like couldn't get the guy. So what they did is set up this whole undercover thing where they convinced this guy who was part of this gang, and the gang leader basically had to say to this guy, like, listen, we know you've had a dodgy past, but anything that's gonna like incriminate this club, this gang, you need to tell us so we can fix it. Like, we don't care what we've done in the past, you just need to tell us so we can get it all like fixed. So this murderer led this undercover detective right to the spot where he put Daniel Morecambe's body. So smart. I know there's like a lot of ethical issues around things like that, but as long as I get the right guy, doesn't matter to me. Have I ever lost my sleep due to a case I've researched? Not a case I've researched, to be honest. I'm a pretty good sleeper, so as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm like pretty much out. And I'm very good at like leaving my work at work, even though my work is my home, but you know. I don't really tend to dwell on these cases that much, perhaps because I tend to do like older cases that are like very unsolved. But the one case which I haven't really researched for a video, but it might be a video that comes up eventually, is the Golden State Killer. I've been reading I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara, and that has actually given me a couple of nightmares, which is saying something because no case has ever like given me nightmares or like any sort of like dark thoughts before, but that book is, it just paints this picture and you can't get out of your head. How long does it take in total to research, film, edit a true crime video? So it depends what video it is. I would say my serial killer spotlight videos take a very long time. I will start researching my next serial killer spotlight video like the day after I've uploaded the previous one. So like all in all, it takes for about a month of research. I listen to all the different podcasts I can find. I read everything I can online. If I have time, I will read like books about it. I will do everything that I can to really like immerse myself in this particular serial killer, whatever it is. So I'd say in total I probably do like 40-50 hours of research on each serial killer spotlight video, and then filming for those, because they're like all over an hour long, that probably takes me about 4 or 5 hours to film that. And then editing, again, about 10 hours, and then uploading always takes like 2 hours as well, so math. I'd say like over 80 hours on each serial killer spotlight. My true crime, like midweek mysteries, differ. I would say on average I probably spend about 30 to 35 hours on each one. Shorter ones obviously less amount of time, longer ones obviously a longer amount of time. Would I ever collaborate with another true crime YouTuber? Yes, I would, but I don't really know how you can collaborate when it comes to true crime. Like, I don't know how that would work in the context of my channel. I don't feel like I could talk about a case like I do with somebody else sat next to me. Maybe in like a podcast style. I do love podcasts when it's like more than one person, so they have that like interaction. But it's not really like my style of thing. But I'd love to collaborate with somebody else. I just need to think of a good way to do it. Are there any missing people cases that you've covered where you believe they are alive? Yes, there are actually a couple. Let me get my playlist so I can properly have a look through. The first one that springs to mind is Leah Roberts, I want to say her name is. She basically drove to the other side of the country, then a car was found abandoned in this forest. And she's never been seen or heard of again, but she was dealing with a lot at home. She took a cat with her as well, if I remember correctly. So there's just something about that case which leads me to believe that she is still alive out there somewhere. How do I find my playlist on this app? Oh, here we go. Also Andrew Gosden. I'm not 100% like set on that, but there's something about the case which does just lead me to believe that he may be alive out there somewhere. I think he lived in Doncaster, and he randomly caught a train to London one day. He was 14 years old, and he's seen on CCTV at King's Cross Station walking out the doors, and he's never been seen again. Nobody knows why he went to London, what he was planning on doing there, if he ever planned on coming home. So I think there is a chance that he potentially could still be alive. Also Sneha Phillip, who disappeared around 9/11. She was seen 2 days before 9/11 happened. She lived in Manhattan, and then she's never been seen again. And I think her name is officially on the list of victims from 9/11 now. But I also think there's quite a good chance that she may have just used it as an escape and like left Manhattan. So I think she definitely could still be alive as well. I think I'll leave it there. There's a couple of others I think, but we'll leave it with those three. Does researching true crime a lot make you more paranoid in real life? I've kind of already touched on this. No, not at all. It actually makes me more aware. It makes me feel safer because I feel like I know the signs to look for. But what I will say is when it comes to like my siblings and my family and stuff, it does make me a bit more paranoid when it comes to them, because whenever they like go to do something, or like if my sister doesn't answer her phone, I'm like, okay, what if this happened to her? What if that happened to her? But to be honest, that's just an anxiety thing with me. That's always been a big like anxiety trigger when like people don't answer their phones and I don't know where somebody is. So that's probably not for the true crime. I think I'd just be like that regardless. Do I actually like true crime, or is it just because I do those videos for the views? I get this all the time. It's always like the #1 like hate comment I get, like, oh, you only do these because it gets views. Believe me, if I didn't like true crime, if I didn't want to do this, I would not spend between 30 and 80 hours of my life researching these cases. I wouldn't do it. There are other ways to get big on YouTube. Believe me, if I wanted to, I probably could do a load of other things and probably have more subscribers than I do now. But I do true crime because I like it, I find it interesting, I want to do it. This is something that I've always been fascinated with, and it was only when I noticed there was something that other people did on YouTube, like I saw, I think Bella Fiore do videos like this, that I thought, oh my god, I can talk about my passion online and people might actually be interested. This is definitely a sore spot for me because I get it all the time and it really winds me up. And no, it's not for the money either, because true crime, as we all know, gets demonetized pretty much instantly. I make very little money on my actual videos. If I got the opportunity to interview a serial killer or a convicted murderer, would I do it? I don't know. I think there's a lot of other people who would be a lot better qualified to interview people like that than I would be. Like, I would say yes just to satisfy my own personal curiosity, but also I don't actually know in what way it would help me or anybody else for me to do that. I don't know. Also, I'm not good at like interviewing in general, talking to people I don't know, and I can't talk to people really who I know aren't murderers, let alone people who I know are murderers. So I don't know, there's a bit of a tricky one. I'd like to say yes, I'd like to think I'd be brave enough to do it, but I don't actually think I would be. What are your favourite true crime podcasts / YouTube channels? I think I'm actually going to do a whole video on this because I get loads and loads of people asking me about my favourite true crime podcasts. So let me know if you are interested in seeing that. I don't know, I keep putting on filming it because I don't think anybody would actually care, but maybe you will do. Just off the top of my head, I'll give you a couple. I love Crime Junkie. I can't remember what it's called. That's really annoying. Give me a second. All Killer No Filler. I can't believe I forgot that name. All Killer No Filler is also brilliant. Case File is also amazing. And when it comes to true crime YouTube channels, I'm not gonna lie, I don't watch many true crime YouTube channels, not because I hate them or their competition or whatever, I don't get it twisted. I just find podcasts a lot easier to listen to because I'm always out doing the horses, like when I'm shopping and stuff like that. I always have my headphones on, so it's just easier to listen to podcasts. And then when I get home, I want to watch my Netflix shows or like my friends on YouTube. So I don't watch loads and loads of true crime. I watch them occasionally, but not many true crime videos. Did I ever consider a career in forensics or the police force? I have actually considered a career in the police force many a time. I think I'd be quite a good police officer. Is that quite weird? I think I'd be quite, like, I don't know, I feel like it would be something I'd be good at. So I have definitely considered that, not like in any particular specialist area, just general police. I probably won't ever do it. I can't ever see myself actually doing it, but it's something that I would be interested in potentially doing. Do I feel like I've become desensitized to details about crime? Yes, I do think I have, but not in like a way that, oh, I don't care anymore, but just like in a way that I can read the goriest of like autopsy files, or I can read the most detailed police reports and it just doesn't bother me. To be honest, I've never ever been squeamish in any way, like not even slightly. I don't care about blood or any of that. I would actually quite like to be a surgeon. If I was smarter, I would definitely have been a surgeon. I'm just not smart enough to ever actually be able to do it. So like in terms of like gore and stuff, like never ever bothered me in my life. And that'd be the only details really that I think would bother people when it comes to crime, and that's never been something that's bothered me. So I don't know, like I'm just not sensitive to it at all, which is probably why I do what I do, because if I was sensitive I wouldn't do it. If I could turn an unsolved case into a Netflix documentary, which one would I choose? This is such a good question and I have no idea which one. Let me have a quick scroll through the cases I've covered and see if I can... See, I don't know if we're talking like a singular like abducted in plain sight episode, or if we're talking like a whole series like Making a Murderer or The Staircase. So let me think of one for both. I think if we're talking about a whole series, the case of Misty Copsey would be really fascinating. There are so many twists and turns in that. And the police, to be honest, were just pretty inept, incompetent from the very beginning. So I think there'd be loads of interesting stuff to look into in the Misty Copsey case. And I'd be really interested to see what a documentary maker could like uncover about that case, because I feel like there's so much that people aren't saying. I mean, my video on it alone was 56 minutes, which is long. Just like a one-off abducted in plain sight kind of episode. The Setagaya murders was really interesting. I think that could make a really interesting documentary. Or maybe even Greg Flanagan, which I think that would just... The like story itself isn't like huge loads and twists and turns, but I think it could make a really good documentary because like of the way that it pans out. Yeah, they're my answers. I think I'm going to leave it there because I have a feeling this video is getting very long and my camera is flashing at me saying it's about to run out of battery. So I'm going to go now. If you guys have any more questions for me, then put them down below. I probably won't be able to be replying as this video goes live because, like I said, I'm on holiday. But I'm sure tonight I can sit in my hotel room and answer some of your questions, so go for it. Thank you so much for watching. We're back to regularly scheduled programming next week with a proper midweek mystery, I promise. And I will see you then, I suppose. Bye.